Have you ever wondered exactly what the process is to buying a home in Texas? In today's video, I'm gonna walk you through beginning to end the entire transaction of what it's like to buy a home here in Texas. And you're gonna wanna stick around until the end because I'm gonna cover some important details of how we've been creative of how to save our clients thousands and thousands of dollars when making offer on a home here in Texas. I'm AJ Taylor from the Finnegan Taylor team. I'm a top 1% realtor up here in North Dallas, and it is my mission and goal to make sure that the home buying and selling process is as smooth as possible for you. So whether you're moving across the street, across the country, across the world, selling your home anywhere in DFW, the Finnegan Taylor team is here to make the process as easy as possible. All right, let's get into today's video, the home buying process. Listen, buying a home varies from state to state, certain rules, certain regulations. So I wanna cover this for you in detail so you know exactly what you're getting into. I don't want any surprises. So first thing, it all starts with the pre-approval. That is right. So what does that mean? Now listen, you can go and call a company right now, Quicken Loans, Rocket Mortgage, you can call any of these loan companies. They'll give you a letter right now that says you're approved. Just tell them how much you make, what your job is, where you live, and a couple of other things, and they'll say, great, you're pre-approved for this. But here's the thing, it'll say at the bottom, this is based on what you've told them, not actually verifying your assets. So things like paycheck stubs, bank statements, tax returns. Those are the things that we need for a pre-qualification. So a fully pre-qualified. Now, what we like to do here on the Finnegan Taylor team is refer you to our most trusted lenders. These are people that we've trusted with hundreds of clients. They do an amazing job and they verify everything. So that way, when we find that home that you love, we're not waiting a week to now turn in documents and get everything ready. We're already ready to move down the line with this, which makes our offer stronger than someone else's because we'll be fully pre-qualified. So that's a very, very important step. And it's so important because we need to know, are we looking at homes that are too expensive, or are we not looking at homes that maybe are within your budget, but we don't know because we haven't verified everything, all the assets, and gone down the line with all the paperwork. So it all starts with the pre-approval process. Okay, next, that is going to help us know the price range of the home we're looking at. I get calls all the time and people say, hey, I'm looking for an $800,000 house. Well, I always ask, what is that number based off of? Is it just based off of what you think you can afford? You punched into a mortgage calculator, so you think that's it? But there's so much more to it. What's the tax rate? Is there a MUD tax? Is there a PID tax? What's the HOA? So there's a number of variables that come into play. So what we like to do here on the Finnegan Taylor team is we like to reverse engineer it and say, what are you comfortable paying per month? Or what's your budget per month of your affordability? Then we're gonna take that number and then we're gonna stretch it out and apply it to a purchase price. So we're gonna look at the monthly payment and what that means versus the overall cost of the house because there's too many variables involved that way. All right, we've gone out, we've looked at 6,000 homes and you finally found the one that you like and you're ready to make that offer. So we're gonna make that offer. Now, one question I get always when I send the contract to my clients to sign is it says, we're purchasing this house as is. I wanna be very clear. We're only purchasing the house that we're offering on this house as we see it right now. That doesn't mean that we don't have our due diligence period of inspections and appraisals. We are gonna have all that, but we are offering on the house as we see it. There could be some major items. Let's say a wall was torn down and needed to be repaired. We can put that in the contract that we're making this offer based on you repairing that wall. So that can happen, but in general, houses are in pretty good condition. And we say, we're making you this offer based as we're seeing it now, and we'll get into the repair stuff later. Okay, here in Texas, we have what's called an option period. This period can range and it is negotiable, but in general, it's 5 to 10 days, usually 5-7 days, depending on the market and how crazy things are, but that's the average time. This is the time period where we are gonna do our due diligence. This is where we're gonna get it inspected, and then we're gonna negotiate any repairs that we want to happen with the house. Now, typical option fee, let's say a home in the 600,000, around $250, $250. In the $1 million range, more in the $500 range for the option fee. Now, you can back out of the contract for any reason at all during this option period. So let's say it's a 7-day option and you say on day 6,
you know what? I just got cold feet. I just don't want to buy the house anymore.
You can back out. You just lose your option fee, which is probably $500 or something like that. So we are paying the seller to take our offer, accept our offer, and kind of pull it off the market or say, hey, this is under active option contract and we are in contract with somebody. So that's what we were paying for. Now, we are going to get it inspected and we are going to negotiate for any repairs. When we're looking at repairs, we're looking for major things. We're looking for major mechanical, plumbing, electrical, roof, foundation, major things. We're not looking for little scuffs on the wall, little paint marks here and there. We're talking right now about buying a pre-existing home. We'll cover new construction a little bit in this video, but this is about buying a pre-existing home. So it's going to be used a little bit. So our inspection is really to point out any major things that are going to cost us a lot of money. We will negotiate those repairs. When we turn in our repair request, the seller has an option to say,
we're not doing any of that. Take it or leave it.
Which in that case, we can decide, okay, fine, we're gonna back out of this. We lose our option money, but we're out of the contract. Or they say, sure, we'll fix everything. Or a lot of times you kind of meet in the middle with something, hey, we're asking for $3,000 in repairs. Maybe the seller says, hey, look, how about we give you $1,500 and we call it square. So a lot of times, you kind of go back and forth on that stuff. But if there's something major, we definitely want to make sure we get it covered, and we will help you out with that process. We have amazing inspectors. We set all that up for you. They come out within 24 hours, we'll have that house inspected and we'll start negotiating for those repairs. Okay, after that option period is over, your earnest money will now go as hard money. So your earnest money will be turned in with your option money within 3 business days of the contract being signed. So that means you need to turn in your option money and earnest money to title. Earnest money is typically 1% of the purchase price. $600,000 home, that's a $6,000 earnest money deposit. Once that option period is over, that earnest money is hard money. Now, we do write other protections into the contract for you to kind of protect you against that, losing that earnest money. It could be HOA documents being given to us in a timely manner, or it could be what's called a third-party financing addendum, which says that you have this amount of days to secure financing. And if you don't, then we can back out of the contract. So an example would be if we put on there that we have 14 days to secure financing. Let's say we're working through the process. All of a sudden on day 12, day 13, you lose your job, something falls apart, or something major happens with your finances that you can't afford it anymore. We can now back out of the contract because of this addendum that I've written into the contract for you. We can back out, we get our earnest money returned. You lose your small option fee, but you get that big earnest money back. Something that's a little bit different here in Texas versus other states, like let's say California, is that we don't do a lot of back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. A lot of times, if there's a multiple offer on a home, the seller will call for a best and final offer. That means you come in, you submit your best and final offer, and that's it. No more going back and forth. I know in other states like California, let's say you have 10 offers, you'll go back and forth with those 10 offers multiple times, going up and up and up and up and up. We don't typically do that here, but I will say we do negotiate. It's not like we don't go back and forth. We do that, we say, well, my client's here, your client's here. Can we try to meet somewhere in the middle? Or maybe you cover these fees, we cover those fees. So there definitely is negotiation involved. It just doesn't happen as much back and forth, especially in a multiple offer situation as other states. Okay, we've made the offer, we've got it accepted, we're through our option period, we've got the house inspected, the repairs are all good. Next part is the appraisal. Now this is only if you're doing a loan. Most people that are buying a home are using a loan, are financing the property and not buying it cash. If you are buying your house cash, it's not required that you get an appraisal because there's no bank involved, right? Nobody cares what it's worth. You're just deciding to pay for it in cash. It doesn't mean that you can't get an appraisal. It's up to you to get an appraisal if you'd like. And honestly, I would recommend it. If we feel like we might be overpaying for something and we want to know we're within the range, get an appraisal. About $600 for an appraisal. So you can get that if you're buying cash, but it's not required because There's no lender involved. Now, what if that appraisal comes in short, meaning less than we offered? Well, the ball is in your court as the buyer. So we go back to the seller and say, hey, Mr. or Mrs. Seller, this appraisal came in short. We are not going to pay you over what the home is valued. So we'd like to now offer you this amount based on the appraisal, and they can either accept it, they can negotiate, we can now negotiate back and forth on a new price, or if we don't agree or they're not willing to budge, we can back out of the contract. Your earnest money will be returned to you. Ball's really in the buyer's court when it comes to the appraisal. Now, I do want to caveat this with it really depends on the market. If we're in a hot seller's market, there's multiple offers, you might be forced, not forced, but you might be asked to turn in an appraisal waiver with your offer. What that means is you'll be on the hook. Let's say the home was $1 million that we offered and it appraised at $950. So if you sign an appraisal waiver, that means you're on the hook to cover the $50,000 difference in the appraisal versus the offer. We're not seeing a lot of those in this current market right now as I'm making this video because it's not so much of a seller's market, it's more of a buyer's market right now. So we're not really seeing that. There's also a partial appraisal waiver, which says we're only gonna pay this amount. Anything past that, we're not gonna cover. So we will protect you as much as we can as your representatives in this transaction, but it'll be kind of dictated by what the market's doing at the time. In general, we're not signing appraisal waivers. We don't want to be paying more for the home than it's valued at. So that's the typical answer is we're going to renegotiate that contract if the appraisal comes in short. Okay, during this whole process, we're allowed to ask for multiple inspections. Let's say we wanted the foundation inspected, we wanted a termite inspection, we wanted a pool inspector. We are able to do as much due diligence as we want to do. So don't feel like, oh, I just saw the house one time and now I'm done. Like, we're gonna try our hardest to get you into that house as many times as possible, take measurements for furniture. Hopefully we're gonna do all of that during the option period, so we're 100% sure on moving forward. But I just want you to know that you have the ability to do as many inspections as you want, and we'll make sure to get them for you so you feel like you're making the best choice when you purchase this home. Okay, offers accepted. We're through the option period. We're now all the way through our contingency on our loan, meaning that we're past the number of days that was allowed in this addendum on the third party. So there's no more conditions to be met. We are ready. We are just cruising. Paperwork is being processed. There is a period during a loan that is kind of boring. Just the lender processing paperwork, title company balancing things. So we'll be in touch with you and we'll kind of keep you updated. But there is a couple of weeks where it's like, what's happening? Well, things are happening behind the scenes, things are processing, but we might be through all of those kind of places where the deal can fall apart. And now we're just kind of waiting for this to finish. So we're there. If you're doing a loan, the lender must provide you your closing disclosures 3 days before we close, so you have a chance to look over it, make sure everything's right, make sure the proceeds are correct, and everything is the way that, we had turned in the offer. As soon as that happens, we schedule that closing, and boom, you are a brand new homeowner in the great nation of Texas. That's right, the great nation of Texas. We love Texas. That is the process from beginning to end. Now, here's a very important part, and this is the exciting part about the video, is that we have been very successful helping our buyers in this market right now buy down their interest rate and get their closing costs covered. A big holdup for people right now is the interest rates. Let's say interest rates are 6.5% at time of making this video. 6.5% is a high interest rate of what people might have been used to, the 3s, the 4s. So what can we do? We can do what's called a rate buy down. Here's how it works. A typical rate buy down is called a 2-1 buy down. That means the first year it goes down 2%. So if the rate is 6.5, we are gonna get your rate bought down to 4.5 for the first year. Second year will be 5.5. Third year will go back to the rate it was, which was 6.5. So that's why it's called a 2-1. 2% down the first year, 1% down the second year, and then back to the original rate. Now, in theory, you're going to refinance that within the first 18 months. As we see interest rates come down, you'll refinance that property and you'll lock in a 30-year term, hopefully in the high 5s, low 6s. So you're going to save thousands of dollars the first year getting your rate bought down 2 points or 2% the first year. Now, what do I mean when I say buy it down? Who's buying it? Okay, an important part of a rate buy down is you as the buyer cannot buy it. It has to come as concessions from the seller. This is for a temporary rate buy down. Let's say, for example, the house is $800,000. We say, great, we're gonna give you an $800,000, but we want back $25,000, and that is going to help us buy down our rate and cover some of our closing costs. That is another very important factor that people need to think about. You might have on average $10,000 of closing costs when you buy this home. That is a big expense out of pocket that you might not have thought about. So what I wanna try to do, what my job is to get the seller to pay for your closing costs. That's the best case scenario, is that we can have the seller give us, let's say, $25,000, and that covers a 2-1 rate buy down and covers most of your closing costs. Now you're at the closing table, you got zero money out of pocket, and you got an interest rate of 4.5% for the first year. All of a sudden, this home buying process becomes extremely affordable. So when you're looking at homes right now, and you're thinking, oh, I can't afford the interest rate at 6.5%, 7%, just know we have been very, very successful in buying that rate down for our clients. Now, here's one other thing, one little trick before we end this, is that let's say the sellers say, we are not going to give you any money to buy down your rate. Okay. Well, how about we give you, let's say the house is 800,000. How about we give you 820,000 and then you give us back 20,000. So essentially now we're using ourselves as our own bank. We're borrowing money from ourselves on the loan, but we're using it to buy down the rate. Now you might say, well, why am I spending an extra $20,000 I don't want to spend? Well, $20,000 on a 30-year loan at 6.5% is like $150, a couple $100 a month. But what it's gonna save you by buying your rate down 2% is $800 or $1,000 a month. So you're really up on that when you borrow money from yourself. So I know that might have been a little confusing, but I just want you guys to know, we are creative in our strategy in saving you money and making sure that you are protected and covered during this buying process. That's kind of how it works from beginning to end. Threw in a couple of ways that we could be creative. And I think it really makes sense to people that I can actually buy a home. Like I can get my rate bought down. You know, AJ and Brooke, Finnegan Taylor team have creative ways of helping me do it. We got the whole system in place with the lenders and the inspectors and everything, streamlined process. So any more questions you might have about the home buying process, put it in the comments below. I'm AJ Taylor from the Finnegan Taylor team. Remember, we're making this content to make your life easier, to make your process of buying, selling homes as smooth as possible. All right, hope you enjoyed it. We'll catch you on the next video.